Hi, I'm on the hunt for the best meal deal in London, and I've come here to Greek Street, which is right in the heart of Soho, stone's throw from Leicester Square, to check out the Wetherspoons pub. Now, you might be thinking that I'm crazy, but Wetherspoons is actually in the top 5 businesses in the UK that serves food. It's basically one of the biggest restaurant businesses in the whole of the country. Now, Wetherspoons was started back in 1979 by a guy called Tim Martin, and his whole ethos was to produce pubs that could serve cheap beer. So he bought pubs, he didn't rent them, so he wanted to keep the cost down, and he would buy old banks, post offices, even churches, and convert them into huge pubs and then sell very cheap beer. And he then decided to move into food. And today, there are 250,000 people visiting Wetherspoons every single day. So let's go and check out what this one's like. So this is the venue, Montagu Pyke. Well, it doesn't look very impressive from this side, but I'm at the back entrance. The front entrance is on Charing Cross Road and is much bigger. But this place holds a really big secret because it used to be the Marquee Club, which was a major rock venue from 1958 through to 1996. And it hosted bands like The Who, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, David Bowie, the Sex Pistols. Now, it moved to this particular venue in 1988. And after that time, we saw bands like Metallica, Blur, Oasis, and Suede playing here. So let's go and check out what this place looks like inside. So here we are inside the pub, and this is the menu, which looks reasonable, but when you open it up, it is absolutely huge. Have a look at this menu. There are so many things on it. It is absolutely incredible, the amount of food that is being offered. So we've got on this side small plates, 3 for $14.99, wings, bites and strips, deli deals, burgers. We've got a whole list of burgers, chicken, all sorts of different types of chicken, curries, pub classics including fish and chips and various other sausage, beans and chips, more pub classics, 11-inch pizzas, salads and pastas, sides and extras, and then we've got desserts on the back, and then here we've got a whole section for breakfast, but breakfast is finished because it stops at 12 o'clock. Now, the whole philosophy behind the Wetherspoons brand is to centralise all of the costs and to keep prices down. So this chain has over 800 different pubs, and everything is purchased centrally and everything is priced centrally. So every single pub has the same menu, all have these menus, so they all have these options. They have slightly different prices. Here in central London is the most expensive, but the way everything is priced is that you're encouraged to have a drink. So all of the food comes with a deal whereby you get a drink included. You can have a soft drink or an alcoholic drink. It's more expensive to have the alcoholic drink. Now, in terms of what I picked from the menu, I've decided to go for a burger because it's Burger Tuesday. So it's Tuesday Club and burgers are on promotion. So I can get an American burger plus a pint of Guinness, which has now been delivered here, and it's only £8.90. There's the food arriving just now. So here we go. Here is the burger that I was just talking about. That's from really quickly. I only ordered this about 5 minutes ago, so that's incredibly quick service. It's not particularly busy at the moment, but it is very quick service. So these two were £8.90 now. If I was buying this pint of Guinness in a pub around here, it would cost me probably between £6 and £7 because central London is extremely expensive and this is a premium beer. So £8.90 for this plus that means that basically I'm getting the food for around about £2 or £3. That's incredibly cheap. Now, I've also ordered another dish, and this is a new dish that's just come onto the menu now. So it's called spice chicken, and it's basically fried chicken with some vegetables and a different spicy sauce. Looks quite interesting. I think presentation-wise it looks pretty good. We'll go on to talk about the food in a moment. But this also comes with a drink, So I got a Corona because I didn't want 2 pints of Guinness. So I've got a Corona and the Guinness. And this was £9.99 for these two. However, when I ordered all of these on the app, so I used the QR code on the table here, and then just put my table number in, there was a special promotion on that wasn't advertised. I had no idea what it was. It wasn't just because it's me, it's for anybody, it's on the app. And they took off some more money. So in total, all of this, these two drinks, and these two meals have cost me £16.70, which is unbelievable. In some pubs around here, you would pay for these two drinks probably close to £15 for these two drinks. So to get all of this is incredible value. So it's a great start, and I can see why this is one of the most popular places to eat in the UK. But the big question is, what is the food like? Now, one thing, just before I start the food, I want to talk about Guinness. So I don't know whether you're aware of this, but there's a thing in the UK, maybe it's global, where it's called splitting the G. So the G on the Guinness glass here, the Guinness, people try to take their first drink and to drink down so that the head comes right across the middle of the Guinness. So I'm going to have a go at that right now. Oh, I failed. So you can see that my line is above the Guinness. Needed to take another couple of sips, but that's what's happening if you're drinking Guinness. People are trying to split G. Okay, so let's get down to the food because that's what we're here to talk about. So presentation-wise, I think the burger looks quite good. The chips, there could be more of them, but that's okay. The plate is traditional to Wetherspoons. That's the sort of plate that they use. Not the sort of plate that I would use. I think it's a little bit over the top. It doesn't really give you premium quality food vibes, but yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's functional, but a little bit over the top for me. So let's have a look in this burger, see what we've got. So the bun itself, quite nicely toasted, a little bit burnt inside. You can see that it's a bit too black, but it's got a bit of sauce in there, a bit of cheese. So we've got a gherkin, some cheese, a patty, and then underneath we've got another burger, which is another bun, which is a bit overdone. But overall, looks pretty good. I mean, it looks quite like a McDonald's burger. I think it looks quite nice, and it's quite well presented, so that's pretty good. So let's have a taste and see what this is like. I have to say, that's a really good burger. That is really, really tasty. That is really nice. So the fact that it's incredibly cheap as well as being nice is a real bonus. I mean, you can see here, if you have a look in there, you can see the quality of this meat is pretty good. I think it's well cooked. I'm really quite surprised. That is an excellent burger. I have to say, that is really good. Now let's try one of these chips. They look quite dry. It tastes a bit greasy. Clearly been deep fried, so it's not come out of an oven, so I think that's a positive. It's actually been cooked properly. It's got potato in it, so I've had chips before where they're just hollow, so it's got good structure to it. Certainly need some seasoning. They don't have any salt, so need some salt and vinegar and probably some ketchup here. But overall, I think that's a pretty decent dish. So let me finish this and I'll talk to you about it in more detail outside. Okay, so this is the second dish, which is the new spice bag that's been launched. So this is on promotion at the moment, and what we've got here is chicken in a salt and chili spice mix with some red onions, and it's on a bed of coconut rice. I have to say, it looks pretty good. When you think that I've got these two that were initially $9.99 but actually been reduced to around £8. This bottle of Corona would cost me £5 or £6 around here. So this food is essentially maybe £3 it's cost me. It looks pretty good. It's the sort of meal that you would get in quite a high-end restaurant. It's nicely presented. The bowl is a lot more attractive than the plate that we saw for the burger. But the proof of the pudding is going to be, what does it taste like? So let me get a piece of chicken that's got plenty of flavour coating on it. Some of the rice, a bit of the onion. Let's get a bit of mixture, see what it's like. Wow, there's a lot of flavour on that. It's pretty spicy. It's got a lot of dry rub flavouring on it. You can taste the salt and chilli mix that's in the coating, but it's pretty nice as well. It's been well cooked. Chicken tastes good. It's not dry. It's not in a sauce. You can see that it's sort of dry sitting on the rice, so there's no sauce with it, but it does taste pretty succulent, and there's a lot of flavour in that. Let me just have another bite. Okay, so I think there's two different types of, excuse me, I think there's two different types of coating here. So the bigger chicken has more of a batter type coating, and the smaller pieces have got more of a breadcrumb. But so the bigger pieces aren't as spicy, not quite as tasty, but still quite succulent. The chicken does taste good quality. I have to say, I'm quite impressed. I came in here with quite low expectations, thinking that I probably wouldn't eat most of this food, but actually this is a really tasty dish, and the price that they're selling it for, it's an absolute steal. So let me finish the rest of this and I'll see you outside to talk about this in a bit more detail. Okay, so here we are at the end of the meal. Normally I would go outside, but it's actually quieter in here than it is outside. One of the reasons for that is that the Wetherspoons brand doesn't have any music. So that was one of the philosophies from Tim Martin, who started this business back in 1979. He wanted to produce pubs that sold cheap beer, lots of it, and had no music and just atmosphere. So it's meant to appeal to all ages, young, old, families, whoever wants to come here. You don't have to worry about not liking the music or the branding or the theme, because there isn't one. It's basically just a pub theme. So I thought I'd actually do the wrap up in here, because if I go outside into central London, there's probably going to be vans and lorries and fire engines and ambulances and everything else going past me every couple of seconds, so it'll be a bit more disturbing. So what's my overall assessment of this meal? Well, I have to say that before I came here, I was fully intending for this to be my first really negative video, to give it the whole, oh my god, the food is cheap, but it's abysmal, don't come here. However, I've now changed my viewpoint, because that food was way better than I thought it was going to be. Now, in terms of the menu, it's absolutely massive. They are offering so many different dishes. I didn't count them up, but there's potentially 100 different options on that menu, so many different things for the kitchen to cook. And when I see a menu like that, it always fills me with dread, because I think there's no way that this kitchen is expert at cooking all of these different things. So there's bound to be some things on the menu that are going to be absolute stinkers. So I decided to go for the special. So it's Tuesday today, and it's Burger Tuesday. So they're offering burgers at a discounted price to normal days. So I went for that because I know that that's probably going to be something that's selling a lot. So therefore, the kitchen will be cooking a lot of burgers today, and they're going to have lots of fresh burgers ready to go. So you're not likely to get something that's been sitting in the fridge, waiting to be cooked for days on end. It's going to be hot off the presses, and also the staff are going to be pretty good at cooking burgers if you're cooking hundreds of burgers every Tuesday. So that was the logic why I went for it. Combined with that, it was on a discount, so I got a special deal. It was cheaper than it would be normally, so win-win. The other dish that I went for was similar. That I went for it as it was a new promotion. Apparently, it's a bestseller in Ireland, the spice bag. And so it was on promotion. There's big signs up all around the pub for it. They're promoting it quite heavily. So again, I knew that the kitchen would be cooking a lot of that because of the promoting it. People will be buying it. It's quite cheap as well. It's only $9.99 with a drink. So I knew that they were relatively safe bets to go for. So that's why I ordered those 2 items. Now, this concept of getting a drink with your meal, I don't think I've ever come across that before. I mean, if you go to a store, maybe you can get a meal deal where you buy a sandwich and you get a can of Coke and a packet of crisps for £5, for example. But certainly not in a venue. You don't normally see a meal plus a drink. But here, they're offering both soft drinks and alcoholic drinks for an incredible price. So the burger, the face value of the burger was £8.90 with a pint of Guinness. And as I said earlier in the video, that pint of Guinness would cost me probably £6 or £7 in any of the pubs around here. So to be buying a burger plus a pint of Guinness for £8.90 means that I'm getting that burger for £3, maybe less than £3. So that's cheaper than it is at McDonald's to buy a decent sized burger. So what was the burger like? Well, as you saw from my reaction, it was really good. I was really surprised because I was expecting it to be not tasty, not well cooked, all of those sort of things. But it was well proportioned. You could see that it was quite a thick burger. They put some nice toppings on there, some nice sauces, a good amount of cheese. The burger itself looked good quality. It had been well cooked. So it wasn't dry, wasn't undercooked. The bun itself, as I pointed out, that had been a little bit toasted a bit too much, so it was a bit too black, but you couldn't really taste that because there was a lot of flavour in that bun. So you had the mayonnaise that was in there, the cheese, the burger itself, and then there was some salad. The bun was also quite sweet, so it was similar to the type of bun that you get in McDonald's. So I'm not sure what the sugar content is, but it was definitely sweeter than just a standard bread roll that you would buy from the supermarket. But it tasted great. So it was very similar to the flavour of a McDonald's burger. So if you think about a quarter pounder in McDonald's, that's the sort of flavour that it was. The chips weren't great, and I was a bit disappointed with the chips because I thought chips pretty straightforward. Anybody can cook chips. They were a bit overcooked. They tasted a little bit greasy, a bit fatty, so I didn't eat the chips. They weren't nice. But the burger itself, fantastic, so can't argue with that. And the pint of Guinness was top quality, so all in all, that meal, great. In terms of the spice bag, the chicken, well, I was really impressed with that because the presentation, it looked great. It looked like the sort of thing that you would get in a high-end restaurant, fine dining. The bowl was nicely styled, quite nicely shaped. It was sitting on a bed of coconut rice. We had some red onion and some peppers and some chilies in there. And then they had 2 different types of chicken. One was coated in a sort of spice mixture, so it was like salt and spicy. And the other one was a bit more of a batter, a little bit of flavour to it, not as much. There wasn't any sauce, which actually is quite good, because sometimes when you get sauce, it can make the chicken go a bit soggy, if it's in breadcrumbs or batter. So it was quite dry, it was quite crispy, really tasty. There's a lot of flavour in there. Now, I didn't eat all of the rice, because once you'd eaten the pieces of chicken, the rice was basically just dry rice at the bottom of the bowl. So I didn't finish all the rice, I just ate the pieces of chicken and the spices and the chili and the onions that were in there. So, but that was fine because I was full, and I got a bottle of Corona with it. And again, as I said, that would probably cost me £5 or £6 in a lot of the pubs around here because it's really expensive in London to buy alcohol. So a price of £9.99 for those 2 items, incredibly good value, really good value. But then, as I said, when I combined the 2 meals, bought the 2 meals and the 2 drinks, it gave me a discount and only charged me £16.71. So on average, I was paying £8.35 for those 2 meals plus drinks. Now that is amazing. I mean, I'd spend that pretty much on the alcohol if you were eating anywhere else around here. So Wetherspoons is almost giving away its food for free. Now, as I said, I was fully expecting the fact that it does that to mean that the food would be garbage. But it wasn't. It was good. I'm really, really surprised. I honestly thought, I was a bit nervous coming in here because I thought I'm probably going to have to go and talk about what happened outside because I don't really want to hit anybody else overhearing me because it would be embarrassing. Not good for the staff to hear that it's not good. But actually, it was really good. I'm really quite surprised. In terms of a score out of 10, well, in terms of value for money, it's 10 out of 10, no question about that. You can't get anything for this price in central London. It just doesn't exist. So Wetherspoons is in a league of its own in terms of the pricing. Maybe if you go to a cafe or a supermarket, but certainly not a sit-down venue like this. So 10 out of 10 in terms of value for money. In terms of the atmosphere in here, it's quite nice. This is a nice pub. As you saw from the walk around earlier, this used to be the Marquee Club, which was a really famous rock venue in the 70s and 80s and 90s in London. So Metallica played their first ever UK gig here, and Oasis have played here, and not this venue, but in the previous venue, because it's moved around, the Marquee Club. You had bands like Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and Jimi Hendrix and David Bowie and the Sex Pistols played their first ever gig in London, in central London, in the Marquee Club. So it's a really famous venue, and it's a really nice pub. I'm sitting in a little bit off the main bit of it because I wanted a bit more privacy and a bit more silence. But if you go through to the main area behind me, it's massive, it's quite vibrant, there's lots going on, the bar's huge. So it's quite a good place to come. So if you're in central London and you're looking for somewhere to have something to eat and drink, then you should definitely consider this because the food is surprisingly good. I would definitely stick to picking something that maybe is a special or on promotion at that time, because that definitely means that the kitchen knows how to cook it and they're using fresh produce. So I'd definitely have that as a little tip for the top for you. But in terms of value for money, 10 out of 10. In terms of the score on the food, if I'm rating it as a standalone restaurant, I think the burger is decent. I would probably give that 7 out of 10. I think it was a good burger. The chips let it down, so probably overall the meal would be a 6.5 because the chips I'd have to downgrade it a little bit. In terms of the spice bag chicken, the chicken itself was really good. It tasted really nice. It was let down a little bit by the dry rice underneath it. So in terms of eating the whole dish, it didn't encourage me to eat everything. So if it was just the chicken on its own, it'd probably get a 7, similar to the burger, but the fact that the dish didn't quite work, again, I'd probably downgrade that to a 6.5, but overall, I think that's a good score for a pub in central London. 10 out of 10 for value, 6.5 out of 10, I think, overall for the food. This is definitely somewhere, if you're coming to London and you're looking for somewhere that's good value for money, that you can come in, spend a couple of hours, have some food, maybe have a drink. You can have soft drinks as well, you don't have to have alcoholic. It's quite a nice place to hang out. British pubs, very popular. So if you're in town and you're passing this area, if you're in Leicester Square, then I'd definitely look up the Montagu Pyke. Oh, by the way, I wanted to just cover that off. So why is it called Montagu Pyke? Because that doesn't seem to have anything to do with the Marquee Club. Was he a band back in the 60s and 70s? Well, he wasn't actually. Montagu Pyke was actually a guy who ran a whole load of cinemas. So he opened this venue, I think it was in 1919 or 1911, something like that. And he ran it as a cinema, and then it burned down. I think the film caught fire, and then it became multiple different cinemas over the years, and then ultimately became the Marquee Club in 1988. So it's called Montagu Pyke because he was the guy who first set up this venue as a cinema way back in the day. Obviously had nothing to do with the Marquee, but I thought I'd just mention that anyway. And that's the way Wetherspoon works. They like to go to a venue and then go with the local heritage, and then they usually give it a name that's linked to something to do with the history and to bring back old venues that have gone into disrepair and put them back into the community. So that's one of the things they tried to achieve. They've done a good job here. I think it works. So the Montagu Pyke, definitely recommend it. The food was decent. The beers were good. The price was amazing. So overall, I think this has been a thumbs up for these guys. So thank you very much for watching this video all the way through to the end. If you liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will see you again on the next video.